The Chicago Bears are in the best position to beat the Green Bay Packers that we've seen in a long time. And today we're going to go through exactly how they can do it.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lorin Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Bears. You can like Locked On Bears on Facebook. Join the Locked On Bears Facebook group for even more Bears talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel to keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our promo code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. On the show today, we put together a game plan for how the Chicago Bears can beat the Green Bay Packers in Week 1 and start their season off with a big divisional win. We'll go through what Luke Getsy needs to do for Justin Fields, for this whole Bears offense, to put them in the best position to score a lot of points against a Green Bay Packers defense that has some very clear weaknesses across the board. And we'll look at defensively, what Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams need to do to make Jordan Love's first game as the unquestioned starter in Green Bay a tough one, a difficult one, and why a lot of that, I think, is going to fall more on the supporting cast around Jordan Love than purely just Jordan Love himself. And we'll wrap up going through some of the key matchups one-on-one that will dictate the result of this game in both directions on both sides of the ball. For Justin Fields and this Bears offense, though, you have to make Green Bay stop your running game. Because I think the bigger picture point here is, as it is every week, it should be to make Justin Fields' job as easy as possible. You know Justin Fields is capable of some dynamic playmaking, some very special things, but you don't want to have to ask him to do those things. You don't want to put him in the difficult position to have to, escape out of a sack and leave the pocket and scramble for 60 yards in a spectacular play. Like that's really nice when you have no other choice and he has to do that. But when you have the other choice, why not make it easier on your quarterback? And so especially in this game against Green Bay, when you see a Packers defense that last year particularly struggled to stop the run, they were, I think, a bottom 5 team in run defense by most measures. By all means, when the Bears are the number 1 rushing team in football last year, run the ball. And that's not just like, have Justin Fields scramble and do Justin Fields things. And even, I don't even necessarily want to be overly reliant on designed quarterback runs and read options per se, but give the ball to Khalil Herbert 20 or 25 times. Give the ball to Dante Foreman 10 to 15 times. Give the ball to Roschon Johnson 5, 10, 15 times. Rely on your deep running back room and an offensive line that last year at least had more of a strength in the running game. And, when you've got a new right tackle, a new right guard, and then changing things up at center and left guard because of the injury to Tevin Jenkins, we sort of assume that, still some similar players and still players, like I think of Darnell Wright and Nate Davis as also being guys who are a little bit better in the running game than in pass protection. This should be a good run blocking offensive line. It is a running back favorable scheme in terms of the running game and getting guys moving laterally and cutting up field. I'm excited to see what Herbert and Foreman and Roschon Johnson can do this season. Lean on that. That's your strength. Make this Packers defense beat you. Like, to me, this game is not about trying to score 35, 42 plus points, right? This is not a trying to score as many points as possible game. This is a control the clock and just score 1 more point than the Packers, or 3 more points or 7 more points, right? This is not a score as many points as you can cut a game. It's a just outscore your opponent. You don't need to do anything more than that. Make the Packers defense load up the box. Make them bring that extra linebacker on the field, take a cornerback off of the field, bring the safety down in the box so that you've then got one-on-one on the outside and one deep safety. And then all of a sudden, it's much better matchups for your receivers. You can go to the play action game off of that, especially, you bring in 2 tight ends, maybe you bring the fullback a little bit more in this game, work some play action off of the success that you're having in the running game, suck those linebackers in, find some space behind them in the middle of the field, a lot of space on the outside, especially, deep when you got those one-on-ones with the cornerbacks there. And in theory, it should make Justin Fields' job easier. Especially, if a guy like Jair, I never know how they say it up in Green Bay. If Alexander is going to follow DJ Moore everywhere, which we don't know that for sure, but Alexander has played the slot, he's played outside. DJ Moore kind of does the same thing, so we'll see if he shadows him all over the field or just sometimes. But certainly, I'm not one who's trying to go after Jair Alexander. If that's the case, then go with Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. I'm not saying you don't throw to DJ Moore at all, but maybe DJ Moore can be a little bit more of a decoy. If the Packers are saying, all right, he's the new 1,000-yard receiver, shiny weapon, trying to take him away, okay, let them take him away and use that to your advantage. If you know they're going to try and double cover him and, bracket coverage him and shadow Jair Alexander everywhere, then move more around knowing that Alexander's going to follow him and then get better matchups for everybody else on the field. I think especially Darnell Mooney in the slot could be a particular advantage here. The middle of the field is weak for Green Bay. Their safeties, they've been still trying to figure out who their strong safety is going to be at this point. It sounds like it's going to be Rudy Ford. It could be Jonathan Owens as well. They may still rotate that at some point. And even Darnell Savage has been a mixed bag for them at safety the last couple of seasons after starting strong. And their slot cornerback, Keyshawn Nixon, is not plan A for them either. And plus their linebackers have had flashes. Like we've seen Devondre Campbell be really good. Quay Walker is an athletic young linebacker, but they're not week to week super consistent and solid. We'll see exactly what they're going to get from them this season. So it feels to me like if you can get the tight ends going vertically up the middle, certainly drawing them in the play action, getting wide receivers working over the middle of the field, especially guys from the slot like Darnell Mooney, there should be room to work in the passing game, should be able to get the running game going, and should be able to have Justin Fields sit back and have, in theory, a relatively easier game. And again, he might not throw for 300 yards or even 250, and the Packers fans are going to say, oh, look at the production, look at the box score. But I think if the Bears are scoring 20, 24, 27 points and winning the game, who cares what Justin Fields' total passing yards are in the game? Let's look at the final score in the scoreboard, and that's really what's going to matter in this one for this Chicago Bears offense. Part of making Justin Fields' job easier, though, is keeping the Packers offense down, not giving the Bears a manageable scoreboard to work with offensively, keeping the Packers from getting ahead and playing with a lead there. And I think for this Bears defense, Jordan Love presents some interesting challenges with the lack of tape on him, but the injuries the Packers are dealing with at wide receiver make this an opportunity to be more aggressive in your defensive game plan. So we'll look at what Alan Williams and Matt Eberflus need to do to make Jordan Love uncomfortable and really hold down this Packers offense next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health because Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that prioritizes and promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. For those of you who tune in on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, I'm not trying to brag, but I got a nice full head of hair up here, thick, dark brown hair. I got some grays coming in on the side that don't come up super well on the YouTube video, but in terms of like the hair, I've got a family of people that have always had really, really solid hairlines. If you want to have hair like mine, then Nutrafol is definitely for you because a lot of men think losing their hair is inevitable, but you can take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. It's the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, and it's clinically shown to improve your hair growth with visible thickness and visible scalp coverage. They had a clinical study where 84% of men showed improvement to their hair after 6 months of taking Nutrafol Men's Health Hair Growth Supplements. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair health wellness quiz, identify the causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Take that first step for visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter in our promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/MEN, and enter our promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. The Bears only have so much Jordan Love tape to go on here. And he's an interesting case study because he has such little experience and there's not really a lot of tape to prepare for. So it's almost like he's a rookie, but he's not a rookie in the sense that he knows the offense really well and has watched a lot of tape and has been there and seen a little bit of everything from the sideline. So like there's certainly an aspect for me of being able to throw some different things at him and confuse him and make him adapt to in-game situations that he just hasn't experienced before. We talked about this a little bit on Wednesday's podcast, looking at why Justin Fields has the leg up on Jordan Love. We got into this a little bit yesterday on Crossover Thursday with Peter Bukowski. I highly encourage you to go back and listen to both of those episodes to really get you ready for game day on Sunday if you haven't already. But I think for Love, you can still give him different looks, right? Disguise coverages, roll your safeties. You might start out with two deep and then bring Brisker down, or you might start off with Jackson up near the line of scrimmage and then roll him back. You might, have like a cloud coverage where one half of the field, the cornerback is playing the deep third or the deep half, and then a linebacker is playing the flat. On the other half of the field, the safety is going to kind of come over and play over top of the cornerback. And the Packers don't really have a wide receiver worthy of a cloud coverage at this point, but you can do things like that so that when Jordan Love is dropping back and reading the coverage, he might see, okay, single deep safety and it's zone coverage, that's got to be cover 3, right? So I can turn to my left side here and know that if it's cover 3, there's going to be the deep cornerback there and a slot player going to the flat, so I can know what I can hit there. But if you go to like a cloud coverage on one side where the cornerback stays in the flat and the safety goes over top, he might still read cover 3, but players are going to be in different positions than he might anticipate them to be. And so then you can force him to think a player is going to be somewhere that he's not and maybe throw an interception or throw an incomplete pass or something to that side by just throwing different looks at him that he just hasn't had the experience to play against in the NFL. Same thing is true in your front seven. Certainly the Bears aren't going to go super crazy. I think back to like the Rex Ryan days with the Jets in like 2010, 2011, where they'd have like one nose tackle and then like 5 linebackers and defensive linemen all standing up with the line of scrimmage and kind of moving around and showing these like wild, they used to literally call them psycho fronts for the Rex Ryan defense. Maybe don't get that extreme, right? But in terms of bringing pass rushers from different spots, maybe, every once in a blue moon, you drop like a Yannick Ngakoue back into coverage on a zone blitz. You blitz a cornerback on one side and drop the defensive end on the other side. Not all the time. You don't want to take your best pass rusher and not pass rush him, but, mix different things in there, here and there, so that it's not just four-man rush, same 4 guys are all running in the pass rush lane that's right in front of them, right? Stunts, blitzes. And your blitzes don't even have to be crazy, right? We're not talking about blitzing 7 guys and only having 4 guys back in coverage. This is not engage 8 in Madden all the time. But, bring a linebacker here, drop a defensive lineman there. Bring the slot cornerback here, and maybe it's a 3 deep, 3 underneath blitz. But, and it's not even blitzing all the time, but it's just being unpredictable. Moving DeMarcus Walker inside sometimes. And maybe Justin Jones on the outside sometimes. Moving different guys to different positions so that the offensive line has to change the protection, so that Love has to check different things at the line of scrimmage. Maybe you're showing, different press versus off coverage on the outside. Because that's the other aspect of this for me, is not only you have an inexperienced quarterback, but if you've paid any attention to the Packers injury report this week, so far through Thursday, this is Friday's podcast coming out, Christian Watson has not practiced this week. Their number 1 wide receiver, the only receiver in this offense that has any sort of like real production in the NFL. And even that was only about 600 yards last season. I mean, he was not great through the first handful of games last season. Had some great flashes, and I think Watson's a really good wide receiver. But other than that, it's Romeo Doubs, who had 425 yards and 42 catches last season, about half a season in the rotation there. Not necessarily scaring you at this point. And then rookie Jaden Reed, rookie Dontavian Wicks, undrafted rookie free agent Malik Heath, and then last year's 7th round pick Samori Toure. Like, these are very inexperienced Packers wide receivers. I believe Dobbs is the only one who actually played any sort of significant regular season snaps, assuming Watson is not able to go, which is not locked in at this stage of the game. But assuming Watson isn't able to go, you got a bunch of rookies and a barely playing second-year guys. I'm jamming them at the line of scrimmage. You got Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, 2 physical press cornerbacks who, Jalen Johnson is much more well-rounded at this stage of his career, but both guys were known coming into the NFL as man-to-man physical cornerbacks, and maybe the zone instincts certainly have gotten better for Jalen Johnson, still a work in progress for Tyreek Stevenson. Be physical with these wide receivers and say, all right, make these rookies beat us one-on-one physically. Get in their face, make them uncomfortable. Don't give them free releases off the line of scrimmage. Don't give them free runs in and out of their breaks. Jam them, be physical with them, and make these guys adjust to NFL physicality at cornerback. They're not going to be used to it coming from college and not going to be used to it. I'm sure they've practiced against their guys, but our guys going to be fully physical in that way at practice as opposed to like an opponent, and not just any opponent, your arch rival that pretty well hates your guts out on the field. Like you can make these wide receivers have to earn their separation. And the less separation they're going to have, the less space Jordan Love is going to have to throw those balls in there. Packers are also going to want to run the ball. I think they're going to want to take a similar approach to what we talked about with Justin Fields, right? Run the ball, make the Bears load the box, make life easy on Jordan Love, run play action, get better matchups. They're going to want to do the same things for their quarterback as the Bears are going to want to do for theirs. So, all right, stop the run then. Load them up. Make these wide, you know what I mean? The difference is the Bears have DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool as the wide receivers that can get those better matchups when you're running the ball effectively, as opposed to Dontavion Wicks and Samori Toure and Jalen Reed and maybe Romeo Doubs being the ones that you're trying to get in those better matchups on the outside. So by all means, load up in the box, stop the run, make those wide receivers beat you. The Packers don't want to have to, if I'm Green Bay, I'm scared of making DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney beat me because they can. I'm not as scared of Samori Toure and I keep saying the names because they're almost comedically funny how unknown and anonymous these wide receivers are. But a Dontavion Wicks is not going to get 150 or 100 yards receiving against this Bears defense. Dontavion Wicks wouldn't get 100 yards against the Bears defense last year with how bad that defense was. Christ, we didn't see the Packers offense hardly get a 100-yard receiver against the Bears in either of the two games. They ran the ball all over this Bears defense. Aaron Jones had big games both times, and that's why that's more of a focus for me defensively, because I just don't trust these wide receivers to do much damage against this Bears secondary, and I don't necessarily know whether Jordan Love can be the guy who can consistently get it to wide receivers, even if they were good, but especially that they're not good wide receivers. I'm all in on trying to stop this run. Jordan Love's going to go to the quick stuff. They're going to do 3-step drops, get rid of the ball quickly, try and get him into a rhythm, clamp down on it, be physical with these wide receivers. None of that off coverage. Don't give them the free space. Don't give them the free yards. Sure, if you get burned or whatever, you can adjust, but from the start, let's be aggressive. Let's get after Jordan Love. Let's show him different stuff. Let's get up in these wide receivers' faces. Be more physical, more tough than them, wear them down for 4 quarters, and make this Packers team beat you where they have inferior talent. I think that really sets the stage for some of the key matchups that are going to decide this game, because it's not as simple as Jalen Johnson's going to shut down whatever bum wide receiver the Packers throw out against him. But I think there's a couple of opportunities here where the Bears can find some real advantages against Green Bay, and where the Bears need to be careful that Green Bay doesn't find a big advantage against them. We'll go through the matchups that are going to decide who wins this game next on Locked On Bears. This episode of the Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the better way to do daily fantasy sports. It's skill-based. It's real money. You pick 2 to 6 players, and then you decide, will they do more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. The nice thing is with PrizePicks is you're not competing against other people. It's purely your skill versus the projections available, instead of battling thousands of players in these big daily fantasy rooms with pros and the sharks and all that stuff. This is just you versus the projections, and it's really easy to make an entry in literally 60 seconds or less. They recently improved their deposit and withdrawal experience as well, so you got the option to use Apple Pay or quick deposits right into your bank account. It's great. I'm telling you, PrizePicks makes NFL Sundays that much more fun when you're watching all the games that are not just your Bears against the Packers or whatever opponent it is that week. Just got to go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for that first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. If the Chicago Bears want to make life easy for Justin Fields and not so easy for Jordan Love, then it's about winning some of these key one-on-one matchups. Yeah, you can scheme and play call as much as you want, but they always say, Jimmy's and Joe's, X's and O's, et cetera, et cetera. That's ultimately what it's going to come down to here. And I think the matchup that worries me the most with the Bears offense, it's a little bit of Lucas Patrick versus Kenny Clark. Patrick presumably going to start at center. Whitehair presumably going to start at left guard. Patrick knows Kenny Clark from Green Bay, and so not that I think Patrick is going to be great or anything, but it helps that they've practiced against each other so much that it's not like Clark is going to throw something at Patrick that he's not prepared for. It's like I'm still concerned about it, but I'm more concerned about Darnell Wright at right tackle. Not that I don't think Darnell Wright will be a very good player, but we talked about this on yesterday's podcast talking to Peter Bukowski. Like, Darnell Wright is still raw, and he's still learning the NFL ropes and still kind of, working out some of the kinks in terms of his technique. And the Packers have some pretty good weapons there on the edge, namely Rashawn Gary, who's coming off of an injury and going to be on a little bit of a pitch count. And I should say, like, both the Packers defensive ends, or outside linebackers, I should say, edge rushers, do flip sides. Gary tends to be a little bit more left side of the defense, so then versus the right tackle. But we'll see exactly how close to 100% Rashawn Gary is. But Preston Smith on the other side is also still a very effective pass rusher. I think there's going to be times when Darnell Wright's athletic ability really helps him recover against those guys and probably give them more than they're expecting or ready for. And there's going to be other times when Darnell Wright lunges at the waist and is beat really quickly, and the pressure's in Justin Fields' face right away, because these are really good pass rushers against a rookie right tackle. And I'm sure defensive coordinator Joe Barry is going to blitz, going to stunt to that side, going to try and attack. I mean, even Matt Eberflus said they're going to give Darnell Wright his fastball, and he's got to be ready. And like Peter said on the podcast yesterday, that's part of why Mercedes Lewis is here, to help out the right tackle in some of those situations. So I'm concerned about that matchup, but if the Bears can hold up there, I think they'll be fine on the offensive line, and that Justin Fields should have the kind of time he needs to throw in this game. When he has that time, I'm looking at Darnell Mooney versus Keyshawn Nixon, the slot cornerback. I don't think he's really their plan A at slot cornerback. He's their kick returner, but he's their option in this game. And if you feel like, okay, Jari Alexander versus DJ Moore is going to be a good matchup, but not one I want to go attacking. Justin Fields threw an interception to Jari Alexander in each of the two Packers games last season. Not to say that I'm not confident in Justin Fields, but no need to throw aggressively at Jari Alexander when you've got a very favorable matchup in the slot there with Mooney versus Nixon. I mean, Mooney is a great wide receiver. Nixon, you got some question marks there, but a little bit of a necessity for them at this stage of the process with Eric Stokes on PUP, and they can't rotate guys in and around. Or if they want to move Jari Alexander back in the slot and cover Darnell Mooney, and whoever is covering DJ Moore or Chase Claypool, that's who you're going at. Absolutely. I think you're going to be able to find a favorable matchup with your receivers, and it's probably going to be Mooney versus Nixon in the slot, or whoever you end up getting on a safety downfield, whether that's the tight ends, Tanyan or Cole Kmet versus Rudy Ford. The strong safety there is definitely the weaker link there, if he even indeed is the one that starts at safety. I imagine they're going to probably try and use Quay Walker, their athletic young linebacker, more with the tight ends, but if you can get the safety matchup with any of your receivers or the tight end, by all means, that's where I want to attack in the passing game. Defensively, really excited to see a clash of the Titans with Yannick Ngakoue at the Bears' right defensive end spot and David Bakhtiari with Green Bay at left tackle. We know and have known for a long time how good David Bakhtiari is. He's also kind of at that stage of his career where you're kind of wondering when the drop-off is going to be just physically. He's about to turn 32 later this month, and it's week 1, and he's not practicing. Didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Not because specifically he's dealing with any specific injury, but because they don't want to overwork him. He's that kind of NFL dinosaur at this point. The senior citizen who they say, don't worry about practicing, you'll be good for game day. To me, that reflects a certain amount of fragility, and also entering week 1, a certain level of he's experienced and stuff, but there might be some rust to knock off there. Is he going to be in 100% game shape if, didn't really do anything during the preseason and not even really practicing in the lead up to week 1? And maybe he'll practice Friday as this podcast comes out, but one day of practice, is that going to be enough for Yannick Ngakoue's cross chop, right out the gate? Week 1, it's one thing if it's 6 weeks in the season, it's all right, he's got some games under his belt again, he's back, he's all lathered up and ready to go. But week 1, again, Bakhtiari is really good. And until he proves to us that he's not good anymore, I'm going to believe he's going to be really good. I think it's a real, again, Clash of the Titans type, not a David versus, unmovable object versus unstoppable force kind of thing. Really two players who are really good at their craft. And it's going to be fun to watch that matchup. And certainly the more the Bears can win that matchup, the farther it's going to go for this Bears defense. I mean, that's true in every matchup, but especially when it's your strength against their strength. We'll see how that can go. But they really need the likes of Rasheem Green or Dominique Robinson on the other side of this defensive line, or DeMarcus Walker to win against Zach Tom, the right tackle. Second-year, fourth-round pick. I think he's not bad by any means, but if you're looking for a weaker point there, him and the center Josh Myers to me are probably the guys that you could find a little bit more of an advantageous one-on-one with. Normally we might highlight a cornerback versus receiver matchup or a linebacker versus a tight end matchup, but all the wide receivers and tight ends that are going to play in this game for the Packers, depending on Watson, are all first and second year players. These are totally guys who have never played before. So I'm not that worried about Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft at tight end. I think they're very talented players. I just don't think they're going to be really good week one of their rookie season. Same thing with Jalen Reed. I think he's a fine receiver out of Michigan State. Don't think he's going to be stellar his first game ever in the NFL. Most rookies take a little time to get up to speed, if not a couple of seasons to really get up to speed. So that's why all the emphasis to me is on stopping the run. And it's not really a one-on-one matchup of it's not Aaron Jones versus Tremaine Edmonds. If anything, for me, it's like Andrew Billings versus Josh Myers. How well can the Bears defensive line hold up and keep the linebackers, Edwards and Edmonds, behind them free to scrape over the top and then come downhill and attack this running game? I think I've got pretty good confidence in Edmonds or Edwards. If they're one-on-one in the hole versus Aaron Jones, for the most part, I trust those linebackers. The problem is if Edmonds has to, get off of the center and then make the tackle on Aaron Jones, that becomes much more of a difficult ask. Something he's perfectly capable of doing, but not every time. And depends on, the angle of the center, the angle of the running back. You got to have free movement for your linebackers on the back end, and that starts so much with the defensive line up front for the Packers. It's about the defensive line up front for the Bears against the Packers. So for me, it's about the cornerbacks and the DBs being physical on these receivers, making them beat you over the top. And then it's about this defensive line being able to hold blocks, right? I don't need Billings and Justin Jones and DeMarcus Walker to shed the double team, get in the backfield and make the tackle for the loss. Just keep the linebackers behind you free. Hold on to that double team. Don't let them get to the second level. Let your linebackers be able to run free, fast, loose, and downhill after Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. That's what this ultimately comes down to me in this Bears-Packers matchup. We'd love to hear from you on what you think the Bears need to do in order to get a victory over Green Bay. You can tweet us at Locked On Bears. You can post in the Locked On Bears Facebook group. You can leave a comment on this video on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. Or if you're a member of the Locked On Bears Insiders group on Subtext, you can text me directly. Let me know what you think the Bears should do as part of this game plan to beat the Green Bay Packers. Join subtext.com/LockedOnBears if you want extra access to in-depth content and access to text me one-on-one. Not even a group chat thing. It's one-on-one direct message to me. Goes right to my phone. I can text you back, have a one-on-one conversation. Join subtext.com/LockedOnBears. Whatever happens in Bears-Packers, we're going to break it all down for you on Monday's podcast, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Feels like a Bears win is well within reach here, but win or lose, you can be sure we'll be here for you on Monday, and we'll be here no matter what to give you another opportunity to bear down.